Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is John. In this episode of Soundcheck, I'm going to try to answer the question, is buying a vintage guitar really worth the extra money over buying a custom shop equivalent? Find out in this episode. Stay tuned. So my journey wanting a vintage guitar came from when I was growing up. In middle school, my principal was one of the guitarists for a band called Tower of Power, and he had a 1959 Fender Stratocaster with a 59 tweed bassman. Ever since then, I've really wanted my own vintage Strat, but of course, never had the money. Right before the pandemic in 2019, I got my opportunity. This is a 1970 4-bolt Fender Stratocaster, and I got it for just about $5,000. In today's market, this guitar would not be $5,000 because those prices have skyrocketed. So I wanted to do kind of this impromptu video about, can the Fender Custom Shop builds these days with the relic jobs and their aging jobs hold up to a actual vintage Strat? So this is an example of what we call in today's market a player grade guitar, for a couple of reasons. One, very, very heavy play wear. This guitar was played in bars, clubs, you name it. There are cigarette burns up here on the headstock. It's an all-around mojo-filled instrument, but there is a big caveat. It's been refretted, so these are not the original frets. New nut was cut with the fret job, and maybe the most value killer in this guitar, the 3 original pickups that were in it are no longer. These are a set of Lawler blackface pickups, so that is why this guitar comes at that reduced price. Now, let me show you my Fender Custom Shop guitar and why I think it's a very equal match in this regard. So enter this. This is a 2021 heavy relic 1959 Custom Shop Strat in candy apple red. And when I say heavy relic, I mean super heavy play right here. This is down to the wood. This is down to the wood on the back where the buckle rash would be. This is a heavy relic instrument. It's not like the Rory Gallagher Strats where literally there is no finish. You can still tell it's candy apple red. There's no finish on the back of the neck. This has all been sanded down. It's an all-around beautiful guitar. It has Texas Special hand-wound pickups. They run a little bit hotter than your standard, I guess, 50s to 60s single coils. All of the hardware has all been aged, even the screws on the back of the plate back here. All of the hardware has also been aged and rusted out. So yes, all around, it's a beautiful guitar. So why do I think these would be a perfect matchup for each other? One, this has aftermarket pickups. Two, this is a player's grade instrument, kind of what this is kind of after in terms of feel. They're trying to replicate a very heavily worn in instrument, a heavily played instrument like this has seen. This has definitely seen a million bars, a million clubs. This guitar has been played to heck. And so I wanted to see if there's any noticeable difference. This can be had for about $4,800 in today's market, brand new. You can find them used for upper 30s to low 40s. This today is a weird market. I have not gotten this appraised, but I don't think it's worth $5,000 anymore. I think it's more worth a couple grand over that in today's market, especially with used prices going through the roof. The fact that this is a 4-bolt 1970 Strat, even though a couple things have been replaced, still in this kind of market, it's a seller's market at the moment. So I think I can get a couple grand more, at the very least, for this Strat. So now that you've seen the two guitars in question, let me show you the test rig that we're going to be testing with. So today's test rig is super simple. All I'm using is my third Power Citizen Gain CSR head into the matching 112 with the vintage 30. I'm going to start with the 1970 Strat. We're going to go on the clean channel. Then we're going to move to the overdrive channel, and I'm going to use a JTM 45 style crunch. And then I'm going to go back to the Fender Custom Shop build. At the end, I'm going to tell you some positives and negatives of both guitars so that you guys can kind of have a good understanding of where I'm coming from as a player here in Nashville, Tennessee. So without further ado, let's get into some sound clips. So we all know that Fender Custom Shop has been doing fantastic work lately. Let's talk about this guitar really quick before we move on to the vintage instrument. So, who is this guitar for? This is for the touring musician or working musician, someone who needs a reliable workhorse Strat that also doesn't really want a guitar to be super shiny and new feeling. The Relic job makes those first dings that you ultimately will put on your instrument feel like a non-issue. Like I've dinged this around a couple times. I can't tell whether it was me who did it or the custom shop. I'm pretty sure I've added a couple to this guitar since I bought it. But that's the great part about buying a relic instrument is you don't have to worry so much about them as you would a brand new instrument. Now, does it feel old? No, it does not at all feel old. The back of the neck feels smooth, yes, but this is not honest playwear. It can never be honest playwear. They're trying to simulate it as best as they possibly can, but in all reality, it ain't actual playwear. So it feels like a new guitar would with just a sanded down neck. The wear on the body, it's very convincing to look at, but honestly, I don't think it is the most authentic. It's obviously not the most authentic thing, but they've gotten it pretty close. I think honestly, Gibson Murphy Lab have gotten even closer than this. So I hope that Fender comes out with their own process that is closer to what Gibson's doing, because those relics actually feel old versus these just kind of look the part really pretty much. The big thing with this, though, is it's going to be reliable. Okay, the electronics are all brand new. All the pots are new. All the switches are new. Everything is new. The frets come with 100% life on them from the factory, unlike a vintage instrument, which you might have to get refretted. The necks might be warped. Other issues that you might have finding a good vintage instrument will never really be present on a brand new guitar. The tuning keys will never give you issues up front, at least. Even though they look old, they are brand new tuners. They just went through an aging process. So you will always know this is going to be a rock solid instrument that also feels older than new. It's a funny oxymoron, but it feels a little bit older, a little bit more worn in. Still plays like a modern guitar, but at the same time gives you the aesthetics and the tone of a vintage instrument per se. So now let's move on to the vintage Strat. So now let's talk about the vintage instrument. Now, this was a grail for me for a very long time growing up. Ever since I was a kid, I've wanted a vintage Strat. I've always been a Strat guy per se my entire life. And I was looking for a player grade one because I didn't want to spend the big bucks and have it sit on a stand, and I would never want to play it. So I purposely went out looking for one that was refretted, maybe had some changed out electronics, but all in all was in decent shape. And I found this one at a decent price in New York. And what I love about this guitar is the story that it possibly holds in it. And I'm holding a piece of freaking history. Someone played the living crud out of this guitar. It shows. And I bet you this guitar lived its life playing bars and clubs in New York City all throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s, and up through the 2000s. From what I know, it was with the original owner up until he consigned it at Southside Guitars. That's what I know about it. Why don't I trust that I could take this out on the road as a main guitar? Well, it's a double-edged sword, right? You could switch out the bridge or the trem, the tuners, and make it a rock-solid instrument, but then you would lose the value proposition that even buying a vintage instrument has inherently in this day and age. So I'm trying to keep this as close to the way it is now as possible. What that means is I have a couple of tuning keys up here that are a little bit sticky. Don't really trust them. I could possibly see if I could grease them or something, but I'm trying not to mess with it too much. The guitar's already been refretted. There's been a new nut cut, but I decked the trem all the way down to the body. Basically made it a hardtail, just because I didn't want to fuck around with any of that. So things like that, just in terms of stability and in terms of reliability with old electronics, I tend to kind of shy away from that. I would take this on the road as a main guitar with my custom shop as a backup. Now that's why I have that guitar. So overall, this is for a guitarist that, one, can afford it in this day and age. Two, if you're looking for a collector's grade one, you're gonna really just want to play it at home, maybe take it out for special occasions. But if you find one like this is the type that you want to pick up, is a player's grade, one that was actually played, because we all know that the ones that were actually played and have honest playwear were the really good ones, and this one plays like a dream. But yeah, so honestly, if I had to do it all over again, I'd still buy this over a custom shop but I would also have at least one backup Strat to take on the road with me if I was thinking about gigging. So, to sum it up, which one is better and which one do I recommend? Well, I don't know. It's a hard question to answer myself. This is going to be as close as you can get to an original vintage Strat without paying that stupid money, even though these are very, very expensive these days, especially the heavy relic in like different finishes like the candy apple red. This is going to be a journey for you. This will be you sitting on Craigslist, on eBay, on every single guitar dealer you know, trying to find quote unquote the one. So this was more of a spiritual journey than this. This was more of a I need a Strat that isn't this to do Strat things. That's where this is great. I can play the heck out of this and it's dead reliable. This, I don't know if it's going to be reliable super long term. I don't know how it's going to hold up really. So all in all, different strokes for different folks. But I am very lucky and fortunate to have one of each. So if you guys enjoyed the video, if this helped in any way, shape, or form, I just thought I would shed some light on the ownership experience of a vintage Strat versus an ownership experience of a custom shop Strat. If you guys like the video, please like the video, share, subscribe. I'm trying to get back into video making more, so everything helps. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.